Welcome to the Self Within podcast, where we will look to ancient traditions and modern insights to seek guidance, knowledge, and practical tools to help us reconnect with our true selves. Join me, your host, as we explore various topics from mindfulness and meditation to energy healing, astrology, and much more. We'll hear from experts and everyday individuals to explore the connections that exist between mind, body, and spirit, and how we can use them for personal growth. To learn more about how to work with me, visit nunatherapy.com or follow me on social media at nunatherapy. Hi, everyone. So welcome. In today's episode, we are going to be exploring the practice of human design, which is a dynamic system that really weaves together ancient wisdom from so many different resources or sources, such as astrology, the I Ching, Kabbalah, and even the chakra system, to really create a personalized roadmap that people can use to understand themselves better. And here to speak with us more about human design and this topic is Paula Torraco. So welcome to the show, Paula.
Thank you. Hi, Annabelle. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited. And before we jump in, I really want to learn, just tell us more about you and what you do.
That's a beautiful way to start. I'm Paula. As I said, I'm based in the Netherlands and I'm a human design and Dharma coach. Dharma stands for purpose in the ancient wisdoms. It's one of the many translations for that word. And yeah, I help leaders find and design a life that they love, right? So I work with people with humans in leadership positions, really high achievers, and especially people that feel like there's more to life and that they just want some support in finding their way.
That's awesome. And so just hearing this, like designing the life that you love, how can you use human design specifically for that? And especially for those listeners that maybe have never heard of it, what is human design? If you could just give us a very brief overview.
Totally. So human design is a system. It's a tool, so you may be familiar with the Myers-Briggs or the Insights or emergenetics. There's like so many systems out there, but the difference with human design is that it's based on your date of birth, right? So it uses your date of birth to create your unique blueprint. And the way I like to explain is like we're all trying to do life in the same way, but we're all different, right? And so what is the use of human design is that it actually helps us find that unique way that is ours so that we can thrive at work and beyond. It's not just applicable for work, but it's really how you are meant, how you're designed to do life. And so it's really a self-knowledge tool, right? It's like, okay, what am I made of? And how is the best use of my energy? How do I make decisions? How do I know whether I'm on track or not? What is my purpose, or what is the expression of my purpose? And just by knowing that and knowing how you best use your energy, you can start identifying and kind of auditing your life, to understand whether you're in alignment or not. Right. So that is kind of the starting point. It's like getting really familiar with your unique ways of doing life. And because of conditioning, because of growing up and education and whatever, we don't necessarily live a life that is aligned with our unique way, because we were brought up in a different way, or we incorporated other practices. So this is actually helping you go back into alignment.
Yeah. And, that's pretty much the same thing that I know I do in astrology, right? And it's so fascinating that your date of birth, the time, the place really can highlight like what you're meant to do in this life, or why you're here, or what are your challenges, and how to, what are your strengths and how to work with them. Like human design, and there are some aspects of astrology in human design, but I always love that, a date that many many times we just celebrate, right, with cake and parties and stuff, but there's really like something meaningful behind it. And I think that's so cool. And I definitely love this idea of it is a tool, right? Human design is really a tool, just like so many of those other tools that you were listing, that can help guide us.
Totally. And then it's not just your date of birth, but it's also your place of birth, just like astrology. So the place you were born in also plays a part. You know, I was born in Argentina, probably you can hear it in my accent. I live in Amsterdam now, but I chose, like my soul chose, you know, to live, to be born in a certain place because that played a role in the blueprint of my life, you know. And there's always like, again, this is a system, this is here to support us and to guide us, but we always have our will, you know, and like the choice in how we respond to anything. So again, this is really a guiding system that is there to support us. Yeah.
Now, I know that I've had my human design chart read.
I think you're a manifesting generator.
I think so. So tell us a little bit more, right? Because there's so many of these different distinct types. There's generator, manifestor, projector, reflector, right? So do you have like a very short description for what they all mean? And also the fact that there are sometimes combinations of the two.
Yeah. So energy type is the starting point in human design. That's really, if you have to begin somewhere, you start by that, but that's just it. Also, there's like so much more nuance to your profile other than your energy type, but knowing your energy type already gives you so much information. And so in human design, there are 4 energy types. So you have generator, you have a subtype that is the manifesting generator, you have a manifestor, projector, and reflector. And each of them is kind of determines the unique ways in which you use your energy, right? So by knowing that, you can already know what is your strategy, how you best make things happen, how you know you're on track, because all of these all of these energy types already share that information. Every generator knows that frustration is their signpost to know that they are off track, you know, and
that's mine.
Yeah, because if you're a manifesting generator, you're kind of subtype of that, you know, but it's really about how you use your energy. So again, we live in a world where 70% of the population is generators. So you can already tell, like, projectors are about 20%, reflectors are just like 1%, and manifestors are 9% of the population. So if we live in a world of generators, which is the biggest group, and is like, I'm a generator, so we have go energy. You know, we can get so much done as long as we're excited and super satisfied by the way we're using our energy, and we're meant to use up that energy throughout the day. Whereas projectors, for example, they have immense capacity, immense energy, but it's not as consistent, and that's already one of the differences, right? So projectors' energy ebbs and flows. So they are meant to work smarter, not harder, if you will.
Okay.
You know, and so that's already one way in which you can start understanding nuances of the different energy types. Manifestors are actually here to initiate. So they have immense energy, and they can go, but then they will just retire for like a week. You know, they will retreat and be in their own energy for the whole week. So actually understanding these, you can bring it like, okay, how am I bringing these to work, for example? Because we live in a world in which generators are the majority, and they kind of set the tone and the pace of everything, you know. So projectors really struggle because they don't, unless they know this for themselves, you know, and unless they know their profile, they try to keep up with a rhythm that is not necessarily supported to their own experience. And also, going back to the explanations, there are 4 energy types with a subtype. Everyone uses their energy different, but they also share certain aspects of their experience. Like strategy is how you best make things happen. You know, so for generators, for example, we are meant to respond. Generators and manifesting generators, we're meant to respond. So we're not meant to initiate unless it's as a response to something outside of our world. Something in our environment moves us into action. But again, what is the common, what is praise is when you go and initiate and make it happen. And you can do that as long as it's in response to something. Projectors, actually, they need an invitation. So their strategy is to wait to be invited. And so, if they're not invited in to give their perspective, to share their gifts and so on, they may end up experiencing bitterness, for example. Right? And that's how they can kind of identify whether they are on track or not. Are they being genuinely seen and valued and recognized for the gifts that they bring?
I mean, I was just thinking, I'm like, oh, I should do this human design chart for my kids, because I think it'd be so interesting to know, like, especially if one of them is a projector, right? Do I need to invite them in? And just recently, like, my daughter has very much, I'm getting into the astrology piece, but she has a Gemini moon, and she's very much been asking me to talk to her. And that is a clear sign of a Gemini moon, is that she likes to have a dialogue and a conversation, especially when she gets upset about something. And so I see so many ways of using human design in terms of just understanding our relationships with the people in our lives, whether it's our spouse, our partner, our kids, our family, friends, people that we interact with.
Totally, because everyone needs something different. And I have helped my sister, for example, with my niece and my nephew's human design, because like she was raising both of them according to her style. And with one of them, it was working perfectly, but with the other one, not. And she was not using up all her energy, so just to go back a little bit to what you were saying, like generators are creative forces. We're here to make things happen. We're the life force. We're here to exhaust our energy, and we are meant to be doing something that is super satisfying. So when we say yes because we think we should, but our heart is not there, and it doesn't bring us joy, we're not doing anyone any favor. But how many people are staying in places that don't bring them joy just because they think, or they don't want to disappoint, or because they think they don't have another way? And we are like generators and manifesting generators. We are supposed to be using our energy in ways that are super satisfying. And that's how we create more good energy in the world. Projectors are leaders. They are guides. They are here to, their gift is, or their value is not so much how much they can do, but the value of the perspective that they bring. So they make really good leaders, coaches. I mean, it doesn't, like, human design is not limiting in the way that it tells you what you should be doing or not. Everyone can be a manager, everyone can be a leader, but it's a different approach, if you will. So projectors are here to lead, to guide, to teach, because they really have this unique way of looking at things, and they do really well in one-on-one settings, because they're here to be seen. That's why I was talking about the invitation. They're here to be seen and to be valued and to be recognized, and they need that. But that's also what they give others. Manifestors are here to initiate. They are the fire starters. They're here to initiate, and they have the most energy at the beginning of a process. But then they need to really delegate, because for them, they are all about being bold in their expression, being free in the way they move. So they need a lot of freedom. So they are really the innovators. They're here to kickstart something and then move on to delegate, and then move on to another project. So imagine knowing that not only for your kids, but for your teams, for example.
Yeah, like I need that idea generator that supports the team. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. And what I see a lot of times is like when I share people like their profiles, they're like, oh, they feel seen and they feel validated as well. It's like, yeah, I'm not an innovator. That's not my energy, so how about we start connecting with these energies and what you actually bring to the table, and making use of that in a way that is best for everyone. So we covered generators, manifesting generators as a group of the generators. So going back to that, so they're also here to make things happen and to be a creative life force. They're powerhouses, but they move quickly, so they're, that's why you were talking about a combination. It's not necessarily a combination. They are a subgroup of the generators, but they bring velocity to the processes. Generators are more like a step-by-step approach. Manifesting generators might skip some steps, they might skip some steps. And so it's always good to have someone in their life that helps them, like making sure that everything is covered, and you don't forget to put the screws or something in whatever you're building, So that's kind of the energy. They're also here to honor their joy and their excitement and to bring things to life faster. So manifesting generators are multi-hyphenate, people with like multiple passions, and most of the time they will not have careers that make sense, because they need, it's like their energy needs to be expressed in many, many different ways. For example, a psychologist that is also a role cycle trainer, and everything belongs, and it doesn't really need to make sense to anyone. It needs to feel good to them. But again, this is where conditioning and everything is like, how does that show up on LinkedIn? If I'm changing careers all the time, it doesn't matter. Like these people need to be expressed in many different ways. And I'm pretty sure you're a manifesting generator. And look at you, you have a podcast and you have your corporate, and then you do, the Reiki and the astrology. You are multi-passionate. There's like, it may not make sense, but it doesn't really matter. If it feels good to you, you're good to go.
I think I saw a quote online about being multifaceted, and I have to remind myself of that all the time. There was a point in my life when I remember that quote by Shakespeare, which is like a master of none. Where it's like you're kind of have your hands in a little bit of everything, but you're not really an expert at anything. And that quote would get me down about myself in my early career, in my early life so often. I always felt like, I should be sticking to one thing. And it was always very hard for me to stick to one. I had to force myself. And I remember I had a boss once who actually helped me channel this, like, let's stick to one thing. Let's focus on one thing. And at that time I thought like, okay, this is great. I need a little bit of that guidance. But it wasn't until many, many years later where I've allowed myself now, especially so, to just be open to everything. Not that I'm not doing everything, half-assed or like, I do want to be good at the things that I do. And I definitely, when I sign up for things, I finish the certification, I finish the course, I finish the program. But I agree with what you're saying. I cannot just stick to one learning avenue or one modality or one thing for the rest of my life. I really need that variety.
Yeah. And what you're saying is very interesting, because manifesting generators have and manifestors as well, they have the capacity of mastering things really quickly. So immediately you will say like, oh, I'm actually good at this. Maybe this is it. And then in a matter of, I don't know, months, you're like pulled in a different direction and you're like kind of doubting that. But it's okay. It's actually about trusting. And I think that this is really important to mention, is like human design really helps you get out of your head and out of your mind and into your body. So yes, that is where the wisdom is, so that's why I keep saying it doesn't really need to make sense. It needs to feel good. And then you want to really trust that wisdom, because we tend to forget that we don't make decisions with your mind. We actually make decisions with your body. So this is another layer where human design is really, really helpful. But before we get to that, I think let's talk about reflectors, which is like, because it's just the 1%, it's always like address the latest. But reflectors are here. They actually have all their centers open. It's very technical. I'm not going to go to that, but they're basically mirrors. They're super open in their experience, and so their life experience is completely different, because their energy is super powerful and penetrating and everything, but they're very sensitive to the environment, right? And so they do really great. They are like kind of shapeshifters. you know, they might have a very different experiences day by day. You know, so whereas for the rest, like there's some sort of stability. For them is really like, today I feel more like a projector, and they are actually able to tap and to mirror someone else's energy. So if they are, you know, they are mirroring and reflecting back, and also tapping and writing the different energies as well. You know, so one day they may feel more like a generator or a projector, you know, and so for them, really being in their own energy is super important. They really need time to be out in places, but also and they thrive in the center of communities, but because they are really reflecting the well-being of the community. But at the same time, they actually need to retreat and be in their own energy, because they're extremely, extremely sensitive. So example of a reflector that I know is like, she's supposed to be working on the 11th floor, but she actually doesn't feel it, you know, she doesn't feel good there. And she prefers to work on the 4th, you know, and she's thriving there and she feels super energized, and that's okay. They kind of, their strategy is to really plant themselves in spaces that feel super good, because that's what's going to be most supportive of their own experience. You know, so they really shape shift, and their experience is unique. Yeah, and they are just the 1% of the population. So it's the total minority.
I was just thinking of, you know, what you were saying with her thriving on the 4th floor, and the fact that it's okay. I think that we need to have these permission slips for ourselves, right? And I think it goes back to that conditioning that you were talking about, is that so often we have conditioning just from childhood, from past experiences, from past traumas and wounds and things that we use to protect ourselves. I mean, that's at the end of the day why we hold on to these things, and we don't want to let them go, because they're protection, they're fears, they're other things that come up for us. But by going through, as you were describing, understanding your whole human design, understanding like what is right, what you're feeling, right? And we can go into the feelings next, but you can give yourself these permission slips of, it's okay if you want to switch careers, if you want to go sit somewhere else because it doesn't feel right, or whatever that is.
Exactly. So there's a lot of conditioning. And it's funny that you say permission slip. I start every presentation that I give with permission to be yourself. You know, that's on my social media, my website. It's really that, you know, like, understand, like, I like human design because it helps you understand where you have been conditioned and what's your way of doing it, and how can you actually be yourself. I was running the mastermind the other day, and one of the biggest insights that came up was that everyone tells you, just be yourself and do this. And actually human design tells you how you're designed to do that. Yeah. And that is the power that this tool brings to our lives.
Yeah, because I mean, to be honest, it's a simple phrase, it's a simple quote, but it's hard because we actually don't know how to be ourselves. I mean, that's the truth of it, right? Until you go through the process of asking yourself the hard questions, of digging into your past, of looking at your present, going through like the obstacles that you're having, you know, getting a reading, astrology, human design. You need all of these different things. And it's true that the universe kind of, when you're ready for it, those things open up for you, right? You may end up at some random point coming across an ad, and that's the thing that you need at that moment. But as you start going through different tools and techniques and talking to different people and reading books and taking classes, and that's when you start to really discover who you are. And then that quote makes sense. And then you can say, oh yeah, I know how to be myself. But that's a journey. I mean, it takes a long time.
It takes a long time. And I like what you're saying. First, because you're talking about this attitude of responding. Maybe a post comes up, and that's exactly the strategy for generators. You're not meant to know what you want. It needs to show up in your awareness, you know, so that you can respond to something. You know, so that is already a change of mindset, you know. And the other thing that I feel like sharing is, for me, everything is energy, right? So all kinds of self-development, self-awareness tools are different expressions of the same. There are different languages, and it's also good to understand which one you resonate most with. I feel, for example, that human design is very applicable, is really it's an experiment, and that's also something that I want to mention. It's not something that you want to learn, but you want to start experimenting with and say, oh, actually, when I'm responding, I find more flow because I'm actually trusting my body's wisdom, and I'm coming, like, the right opportunities come my way, and I meet the right people, or I see something and I'm excited by it, and it may not make sense, but I'm gonna take a chance. And that's how things start opening up. So yeah, that's a beautiful way of explaining responding.
Well, and I think the other thing with responding as these feelings that we get, right? And I know that for me, when I did my human design, I make decisions based on my gut and how I'm feeling. And then the other very clear sign for me is frustration. And when I start to feel frustration, that's a clear sign of like, no, don't go near it, don't do it, abandon it. And it's taken me a while, even though I've known it, it's taken me a while to actually just allow myself to experience it and to listen to it. I think we go back to conditioning. We're so trained to think with our brain, to make decisions with our rational mind, that the feelings that come up, we second guess them. We doubt, is this real? Well, what if? Maybe I'll just try to say yes, even though I feel it's a no. And you have this like inner dialogue with yourself. And it goes back to, I think, what you said about trust. You really just need to trust it. It might not rationally make sense, but when you trust, and the more you start trusting, I think of intuition as this like muscle that you needs to just get built. It's like going to like a training workout program. And we haven't trained it and used it for so many years that it's really a weak muscle in our bodies. But the more we tune into it, we tap into it, we ask it questions, it definitely gets strengthened over time. So and maybe you can talk more about those feelings that I know are associated with human design, or that's part of the blueprint as well.
Yeah, totally. So so there are a few things here. So as I was saying, human design is really meant to help you get out of your rational mind and drop into your body, right? And you were talking about emotions and feelings. There's so much information there. It's energy in motion. Emotion is definitely energy in motion, and there's no good or bad. It's pleasant or unpleasant. Let's put it like that, but it's information. And when we second guess it and we ignore it, we're missing out on massive information. It's most of us make decisions with our guts, like you were saying, but there's a lot of people also, there are different ways. And this is something that when we look at a blueprint, we also address, and it's like how you're designed to make decisions. Some of us make decisions with your gut. So do you know how a yes feels in your body? And do you know how a no feels in your body? A yes, for example, for me, it's like lifting of my chest and kind of a rush. And I'm like, actually getting up, good to go, like, yes, let's do it. And a no is more like, no, like even pulling back. That's what I'm doing with my, with my body. I'm just like, kind of rejecting it. So it's really interesting to understand that. But other people actually make decisions with their emotions. So what it means is that they need to wait for clarity, because some people really have a defined emotional center. And that means that they really go through an emotional wave. And if they commit to something when they are in a high, they might regret it the day after, or they may pass on an opportunity because they were not feeling it at the moment. But then a few days later, they regret it also because it could have been a good idea, or like they felt more ready for it. So it's really interesting to also understand that some other people make decisions by talking it out. So they actually need someone that acts as a sounding board, not to give advice or anything, but just to ask the right questions. So they definitely do really well with a coach. someone that helps them make sense of what they are, feeling. But again, there's nothing rational about it. It's like it's coming through their inner knowing, and that's what we want to start trusting more. But that, exactly like you said it, we're not trained in doing so. So I always talk about this outer game and this inner game. The outer game is accolades, results, and performance, and we definitely train for that and the physical body. But there's the inner game that is actually running the show from the inside, and that's what we want to strengthen.
Yeah, I mean, I keep thinking about my kids. I'm like, oh, how do I strengthen their inner game like now? Because it's, if they know it now, it can be with them in the future, right? It's just available.
Totally. Yeah. So, a really good way is like start bringing awareness. Frustration, like you said, is a signpost for many of us to know that something needs to change. This is how you know a relationship expires, or a relationship can be a job relationship, that anything, if it could be something that was really exciting at some time, and now is the biggest source of sustained frustration, because we can all have challenges, but it's about learning and discernment as well. But if you experience sustained frustration, then it means that something needs to shift in the way you're using your energy. So that's a beautiful question, is that, is this still the right use of my energy? For others, it's bitterness. If projectors don't feel seen and acknowledged and recognized, they will feel bitter. The opposite is like satisfaction. Generators, manifesting generators, they feel satisfied. So actually, going back to your point of like knowing these and being able to name the emotions, it's it's crucial. It's really critical to our own experience. For projectors, it's success. And for every energy type, like these are like, they're things that we all share. It's like, am I feeling bitter? Then it means that something needs to shift. Manifestors feel anger, and reflectors feel disappointment. So it's really interesting to understand what is your signpost to know you're on track, and what is your signpost to know that something needs to change in the way that you use your energy. And again, this is just like the starting point in human design. Then you go and check your profile and how you make decisions. And then, like you were saying, what are the things that make you you? So what are the centers, and what are the areas like where you can really rely on, and where you're influencing others, and what are the areas in your life where you're influenced by others? So these are also where you're at school, because you're being susceptible to the energy of others.
I love this, what you talked about with the emotions piece, because one of the clear ways of really being able to cultivate emotional intelligence, so like the recognition and the management of emotions, is to name what it is that you're experiencing. And by combining it, I think the beauty of combining it with this human design blueprint is not only can you name what you're feeling, but then to know that that feeling has a clear sign, as you said, this signpost. And oftentimes we don't realize what it is, right? And that's normal, right? I mean, we don't go through our day saying, oh, my satisfaction is X, Y, or Z, right? So that's wonderful to have that language, to know that my frustration equals a no, or my satisfaction equals a yes, or my chest lifting is a this. And yeah, I love that, because could be so helpful for so many people.
Yeah, totally. I always say, I think I took this from Brené Brown, in her book, Atlas of the Heart. Like, I think it's like the limit of our language is the limit of our experience. It's not her quote, but I know she mentions that in her book. And so when you're able to put language to what you're feeling, because it's very different. It gives you strategy. If you're overwhelmed, you need to prioritize. If you're feeling anxiety, it means that there's something worrying you from the future, about the future. So when you're able to name exactly what's happening, you can bring it to the present moment and become more clear about it, and put strategy into it. And when you combine it with your blueprint, then oh, okay, this means I'm off track in this specific area, and so what can I do about it? And this is what human design gives you. like always a strategy, something you can work with, so it's really interesting as a toolbox.
So, just talking about the process of growth and self-realization and self-discovery and self-awareness, I'd love to hear also your perspective, even from as a Dharma coach, right? How can individuals, right? I mean, other than going through these different tools, and I think we all have to go through the process of kind of rediscovering or reconnecting with our authentic selves, but what else would you suggest that people do, or what else do you see in your practice when you're working with clients?
So I like to think about something, because there's, for most time, there was this tendency of becoming mass, or like adjusting to whatever everyone else was doing,
Yeah.
And then this is the process of individualization. And so our purpose is really not so much what we do, which I think it's a big misconception, but it's how we do it. Because yoga teachers or people managers, there are going to be so many, but the how you do it, that is unique to you, and that is your unique vibration. So purpose for me is, what is the unique vibration that you carry, and that is your how, and that is your purpose. So I feel like working with these tools and going back to what it means to be your authentic self is actually embodying that unique vibration and totally accepting it and loving it, and understanding that if there was a party called life, you're invited in because you bring something, and that is your gift, and your unique vibration is that gift that you bring to the party. Otherwise, the universe doesn't make mistakes like that. You're here because there's a unique vibration that you carry. And no matter what you do, as long as you're connected with integrity in who you're here to be, then then you're totally in alignment. And it's a journey. It's a journey. It's about like remembering who you're here to be, remembering why you came.
I remember working with someone, and they had said to me, well, why would I do this one thing when there are so many other people that are out there with, 15 years plus of experience and a much greater following, and, and it could go on and on. And I just remember saying to her, well, yes, but it's completely different. There is still a space for you in that market, even if it's oversaturated, just because I think the one thing I always like to say to people is that you're not going to be for everyone, and that is okay. Especially, I always go back to, there are 8 billion people in the planet. So even if you get even just a fraction of that, that's still a big number. So it's okay. And I also have thought about that myself when I am posting and doing things. It's like, I'm not going to be for everyone. And I really try to post things and talk about things that are interesting to me, that are inspiring me. And if it's making me happy, then I'm going to say it, then I'm going to do it, and it'll resonate or not. And that's okay. And sometimes they don't work, and sometimes it works.
Well, but that goes back, I love that, because that goes back to actually you doing stuff that you find satisfying, which is how you're meant to do life.
My human design thing.
Exactly, and that's how you can kind of give it a place from a human design point of view as well. But like, yes, there are many coaches. I'm a coach. I'm not for everyone. Some people don't resonate with me, and I'm okay with that. Of course, it's been a learning process, because when you're starting and so on, but I'm totally fine with it. Like, not everyone will resonate with my approach. I also don't resonate with everyone. So I don't work with everyone. If I don't feel like there's resonance, then I would actually politely decline to work with someone, because I know that we're not going to jam together as well as I would with someone where there is a resonance, and a vibration. And that is very important. But no one can do, like, there's room for everyone, there's room for everyone. There's no competition. It's only collaboration, because we're here to be of service, everyone. in one shape or another. We're here to be of service. So what is your why? That's super important when you're talking about purpose. Like, what do you care about? Why do you get up in the morning? You know, and that is important. And then the knowing that no one, like, even if there were many coaches or many yoga teachers or people with more follow, no one is you.
Yeah.
And that's it. No one can do it just like you, because no one is you. So what is your why, and what is your how? How does it look like? And then you go from there, understanding that, yeah, you are invited to the party because you bring your unique vibration. That's it.
I like thinking of it that way. It's like, who would I be at this party? What version of me comes out at this party?
Totally.
Sometimes we have two versions, right? And I think that's another very important thing to say, is that we're also an evolving creature, right? The version of us, or the version of me today versus 5 years ago, 10 years ago, is not the same, you know. And I guess at my core, I'm the same. There's that core soul that is the same, but what I like now, I may not like tomorrow, and that's okay too. So my party dress is going to change.
Absolutely. So your essence will stay, you know, but it's kind of, you want to look at it, or I like to look at it as like refinement, you know, like you have an instrument, a guitar is a guitar.
Yeah.
But it can be out of tune or it can be super in tune. And that's another way of looking at it. You know, it's a dress for the party, or it's like the instrument that you bring. Like, how can you bring it back more into alignment so that the tone that comes out of it is pure? And that's the work, that's the evolution. I'm not the same that I was 10 years ago. I'm not the same that I was 3 years ago. And I'm not the same as I was that I was yesterday, because we are meant to evolve. There's a lot of resistance there as well, but we are meant to change. We are meant to evolve and to become more refined in our expression.
Now, does that involvement also come into play somehow with human design? So, and I know that there's kind of you are you at your essence, and that's essentially what you're seeing in your roadmap.
Yeah.
But is there an opportunity for, let's say I'm a manifester, but I want it to be more of a projector, to kind of go toward that path, using still my blueprint as the background for that growth? I don't know. Is that possible? Because I always, again, I'm just kind of thinking of like how we evolve and grow. And even when we think of having a diverse team, right? Or a diverse group of people that you want to put together on purpose, because you need a manifestor and a generator and a projector and a reflector. They're all essentially supporting each other.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, could I spend time with a projector to learn the projector ways?
That's a very good question. I think that the purpose is to go to become more you, become more aligned to who you're here to be, because we need you as you are, you know. And I think that a lot of the conditioning is actually projectors acting as generators, you know, because they are trying to keep up with the world around them, where actually they need to rest. Or manifestors not initiating because they, you know, they are a lion that acts as a kitten, you know. So I think that the best way of actually using this tool is to go back to who you're here to be, because in essence it's like you chose to be born in a certain place in a certain time for a reason. So like help you go back to that alignment with who you're here to be. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can say, I want to learn those skills, you know. So I will definitely, because we're always influencing each other, you know. So we don't get to go through the centers, but for example, not everyone deals with inspiration in a certain way. So definitely, and we're influencing each other, right? So if I have, for example, a defined mind, I will be influencing you with my thought process, for example, you know. And so by you being in my energy will definitely be influenced by that, but you also want to be very aware about that,
Right.
because it's like, oh, is this mine? Am I picking it up from someone else? So it's very interesting. That's why I find it like so important to understand what is mine, what am I picking it up from the environment. But going back to your question, like, I don't think, I think that every energy type is very special in its own way. So I wouldn't, like, I haven't met any manifester that would like to be a projector, because or generator that would, because when you actually understand that it's okay to be who you are, why would you want to be something else?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of this. Like, oh, there's like, it's valid. People feel seen, people feel heard, validated. And so it's an experiment. What will happen over time in terms of evolution, which is like the start of your question, was more like your human design will show itself, will reveal itself over time. So it's an experiment, so maybe you start working with your strategy, responding or waiting for an invitation or initiating, manifestors need to be the first for everything, to start a conversation with someone, to come up with a project, or they need to do that. So that's already a starting point, just initiating, and then maybe they start experimenting with that for a while. And then later on in time, they start, deconditioning other centers, for example, certain energy centers. So that's how it's for life. It's really working with this deconditioning that, it keeps revealing itself to you over time. And there's like, it's really is as deep as you want to go.
And I think it's also another reason why it can be very important to have all of these other types in your life, these energy types, right? Because just kind of going back to if you're you, that's where collaboration can come in. That's where delegation come in. That's where inspiration, working with others, right? We're not meant to be everything. And that's a big, I think we try very hard to want to do things solo, to want to do things on our own, to not ask for help because we don't want to be bothering people. There's this very much this individual mentality, even when it comes to entrepreneurs, right? It's like wanting to do everything yourself. But once you can tap into that magic and that like really powerful aspect that someone else just is a really good expert in very innately, it's what they're born with, then you have that super team. Then you have that super like family or household or whatever it is, friend group, it goes on and on.
It's people honoring who they're here to be, and then everyone else is appreciating that as well.
Yeah, appreciating each other. Yeah.
Totally. There's like, we're not meant to do like you said, we're not meant to do everything alone. We're not meant to be perfect at everything, just bring other people in your life. And also, it's very interesting because when you start acknowledging that and saying, oh, actually, I'm very good at this, and this is an area where, area of improvement or something that I need to watch out, then you also start attracting people that complement you, so it's very interesting because this is all about becoming magnetic, so attracting the people that have the skills that you may not have, especially if you have a collaborative profile. So it's really, really, again, energy type is a starting point, but then you really want to go deeper and understand the profile, how to make decisions, like what is my definition? Like, am I single definition, which means that I'm very independent in the way I do my work? Am I collaborative? It means that I actually need to work in partnership. I feel whole when I work with someone else, and when in alignment, I will attract the people that have the skills that I don't have. Do I need to be in places? Do I need to work from home? What is my environment? It's just like layers and layers and layers. So it's it doesn't need to be overwhelming. That's why you want to start small, start experimenting with it, and then go deeper as you go.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. There's so, yeah, no, for sure. There's so much there. There's definitely so much there. Paula, any kind of last words or words of wisdom or any other suggestions that you might have for our listeners when it comes to that process of self-discovery and, you know, whether it's human design or anything else?
I would say that if you feel that something needs to change, if you feel called to explore something and, you know, you feel drawn to something, be open to it, because you may like, outcome may be extraordinary, you know. So I always say, whenever with manifestation, with anything, you know, I always approach like, may this be it or something better for the highest good for all. So it's really about following that curiosity, you know, getting super honest with yourself and acknowledging that, you know, you may be feeling that something needs to change, being open and curious, and then surrendering the outcome. So what I mean by that is like being, whenever you start any process, being super open to the ways that the universe may surprise you. Because we tend to attach to an outcome, but life has funny ways of showing us the way, actually. So for anything, like, that's what I would say. I don't know if it's very related to human design, but in general, you know, if you feel like there's something else, I believe that we're here to be our highest version of ourselves. So if you feel like there's something that you want to explore, go out, check what's there, check what resonates with you. There's no right or wrong way of doing that, because we're meant to, you know, to explore, and eventually you will find something that will make sense, or that will feel good. I will put it better, that will feel good, and so that's a road path that you may want to follow, even if you don't know where it will actually lead you.
Yes, trust the process. Trust in sometimes it's chaos. Trust the chaos.
Trust the chaos. Yeah.
It's very hard to do.
Totally. And for anything else, I would say that normally, for me, everything is an expression of the same, you know, all like we were saying before, astrology, Reiki, chakras, whatever, is different languages for the same, which is energy. And that's what we all are as well. So it's like, see what resonates with you and just be open to it. But do go with someone that is very knowledgeable and trustworthy. I think that's also something really important.
Totally. So how can people connect with you if they're interested in working with you or learning more about you?
You can go to my website, or like, I'm in social media. So Instagram is with my name. I am Paula Torraco. You can go to my website, which is tobehonest.eu. And yeah, you can just reach out. I do coaching. I always start my coaching processes with human design, but I also do just human design readings. I offer some masterminds every now and then as well. And I'm going to be launching very soon a course that I wish I had when I started. So I'm also looking forward to that and very excited. So that's something that you can also check. And one other thing, just before we go, I think that it's very important to understand that any system that is kind of limiting, you want to be doubtful about this. You know, everything here is like, I think it's very important to work with a structure so you can transcend it. And I think that that's the beauty of the tools that we're using. You know, you want to learn, like, what are the limits so that you can actually go past them, you know, you can transcend them. And I think that that's how we grow.
I love that. Thank you so much.
I really enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening. If you're interested in becoming a client and working with me, visit me at nunatherapy.com or follow me on social media at nunatherapy for regular content and inspiration. Until next time.